Well, boys, it's only less than 24 hours after the Super Bowl ended, and already Adam Schefter has given us the circus that I guess he and all of Minnesota sports fans wanted. He teased the idea of Aaron Rodgers donning a purple jersey next season uh, after reportedly leaving the New York Jets or being shipped out of the New York Jets or sent away from New York. So let's jump into it. Let's get your thoughts. Let's go around the table. We've got everybody here today. Let's jump right into this Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings topic. Will, I'll start with you. How can this happen? What's the likelihood of it happening? And personal opinion is injection. Do you want it to happen?
Well, I have to correct one thing you said in your opening statement, which is that the Minnesota sports fans want this circus because,
Fair.
as I've learned from my Twitter replies, everyone hates this idea like passionately. But
Thank you, Minnesota sports fans. That's
No,
what I'm going to
everyone's
say.
I
stupid, including you, Jonathan.
I think I think there's two completely different aspects here. The on-field aspect is one thing. I would be intrigued by it from a purely chaos and content standpoint because it would be one of the funniest and most dramatic and chaotic roster moves ever, and just the story with Rodgers completing the Brett Favre arc is so good. There's a lot of reasons why I don't think it makes a ton of sense for Kevin O'Connell and this regime, but oh man, it you can talk yourself into it from being hilarious, and also you can kind of talk yourself into it from a football standpoint if Rodgers has anything left, which he may or may not.
It's a great idea. It's you got to remember JJ McCarthy. Let's. There's no point in rushing this thing when there's gold that you can live on for a little bit while longer, and Aaron Rodgers is that gold. I mean, this is a business, right? It's big business. Ziggy and Mark Wilf have to look at this and say, Aaron Rodgers, jersey sales, primetime games, publicity galore, the spotlight constantly on us, Tuesdays on the Pat McAfee show, aliens, orbs, politics, conspiracy theories. Can you imagine 8 years from now when we're talking about former Minnesota Vikings president of the United States of America, Aaron Rodgers? I mean, Super Bowl winner in Minnesota. He breaks the curse. It's all possible. Just get him an offensive line. They have the cap space to do that. As long as he'll play on a Darnold-like deal, give him $10 million. Come on, Aaron. Let's play with Aaron. Let's play with Justin Jefferson. And like Will tweeted out, Devontae Adams and Jordan Addison and Aaron Jones. Everybody, let's get the whole band over here from Green Bay and rub it in their face and win a Super Bowl. There's so many reasons why this makes sense. More so from a non-football and a content-generating perspective, but also from a football perspective. If you protect Aaron Rodgers, he's a great quarterback. What are the odds of the Vikings winning the Super Bowl with McCarthy next year? I mean, what, 5%, 10%? The NFL Super Bowl odds from DraftKings came out on Monday, less than 12 hours after the Super Bowl ended, and the Vikings are tied with the Bears for the 15th best odds. Nobody believes in the Vikings again. More bulletin board material. But this just allows a 22-year-old young man who likes to meditate and go into the third eye, the pineal gland, by the way, you should activate it. A lot of our pineal glands are calcified. And if you can activate it by looking right here with your eyes closed, you can really do some damage in this world and become your true self. JJ McCarthy's mastered it. Aaron Rodgers has mastered it. That's how you get to a Super Bowl. But he's only 22. He'd be 23 if he took over as the starter in 26-27. You've eaten 2 years of his rookie contract, but you've built a roster that now has the wisdom of a young man entering his first true year as a starter with Aaron Rodgers guiding him for an entire season. That is invaluable.
I could be wrong, but I think we did a video earlier this year, and you had almost the exact same take, Joe, about how the jersey sales and everything else was going to skyrocket. And I do agree. There's plenty of content ideas in the quarterback room of Aaron Rodgers, and JJ McCarthy would be interesting. I just think it's a avoidance that the Vikings should take and just not avoid it at all, and avoid it at all. Excuse me, because it's a risk they don't have to take, and I think there's plenty of other quarterback options. Kevin O'Connell has shown that he can win with just about any veteran quarterback, if that's Josh Dobbs or Nick Mullins, be at least competitive. And I think they should just not buy into the circus. But like Joe said, there's a bunch of interesting things that could come with it. But I think it's one problem that they should avoid taking on.
I don't think it's that bad of an idea, to be honest.
You love it.
I mean,
Yes.
if you look at it
Well,
the same way,
well,
like
hold
Tony
on.
said,
Before Nolan gets started, let's let in people on a little background here, Nolan. You also want Jameis Winston, so
I would take
I'm
Jameis
gonna
Winston here.
I'm gonna
Here's the
take
thing.
your opinion here
Fox
with a
made
grain
the
of salt.
greatest decision ever by giving Jameis Winston a microphone and let him run around New Orleans. That was fantastic. I would be here just to hear whatever Jameis has to say on any given day. But that's more of a personality that I think would be fun to have around rather than like a football perspective. But I mean, just like Tony said, Kevin O'Connell seemingly can do well with any quarterback. And so if he did this with Sam Darnold, I mean, we've seen Aaron Rodgers do it year after year. And, not a great run with the Jets here, but has anybody ever had a good run with the Jets, like since
No.
Joe Namath?
Brett Favre?
Brett Favre didn't have a very good run with the Jets either. So I think, like from that perspective, you're not signing him to any kind of long-term deal. I don't think it really screws anything up. So if you give it a 1 year, who knows where JJ McCarthy's at with his rehab? Could still be, coming back, and he's didn't get any snaps last year. So do you really want to throw in a rookie who is coming off an injury and has not played at all right in? Doesn't seem like the greatest idea. Aaron Rodgers, you're not signing him to like a 5-year deal. He's 40 years old. You're signing him to probably a 1 year.
42. Yeah.
42 years old. You're probably signing him to a 1 year deal. The risk reward is like, well, sure, it's high risk, but if he stinks, you can just throw in JJ McCarthy. And it's going to be a media circus if you bench Aaron Rodgers, but you can still do it. And if it works well, it works great. It worked great with Favre. You never know what could happen. He can still have another year, another run in him. So I think it would be fun just to kind of see it happen. It's significantly better opportunity here than with the Jets to try and win. Better coaching, better receivers. You'd be thrown to Justin Jefferson. Who doesn't want to do that? I don't know. I don't think it would be that terrible of an idea. Give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? It's one bad year.
Yep.
The worst that
worst
could
that could
happen is
happen-
Rodgers.
Yeah.
He comes in, he tanks your entire locker room vibes and culture. Players start tearing each other
Preach.
apart from the seams in the locker room.
Go well. Keep
You
going.
got a complete circus going on. I think it's high risk from that perspective, just who Aaron Rodgers is and some of the things that have followed him in recent years. And also, I do think to make the other argument, yes, like Aaron Rodgers might bring you a higher floor or ceiling next year potentially. The Vikings are pretty high on JJ McCarthy, but by sitting McCarthy another year, then in 2026 you've still got to do the growing pains of, all right, this is his first year starting. If you start him next year, then you ideally learn some things in year one, and then in year two in 2026, with a year under your belt of starting, you're really ready to hit the ground running. But
I think
mean,
the
I
injury
can't-
would be the bigger thing as far as like coming in right off the injury, just because who
Yeah,
knows, he had to have
all-
a second cleanup procedure.
the reports are that he's feeling great. He's going to be fine for OTAs. The second procedure was just a plasma injection or whatever. I'll trust the Vikings medical staff on that one, but I don't think there's a real major injury risk of playing JJ McCarthy week one this year. I mean, people tear their meniscuses in sports and they recover just fine. So we shall see. I don't think it makes a lot of sense from a football perspective, but I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't be very intrigued by the content of it all.
The worst
Joe,
that could happen is 5-12, and you have to fire everybody in your front office and head coaching staff. You have to get rid of a promising young head coach who clearly has the respect of a lot of players across the NFL. I think that's the worst.
No,
that could
no.
happen.
You
There's
all
no
sign
way
a
you're
wait.
firing him. There's no way
No.
you're firing him. Even if it
Coach of the
crashes
year,
and burns,
baby.
you're not firing him.
No,
Yeah,
O'Connell
yeah,
will be fine.
exactly.
Kwesi is going to need at least a 4-year extension if he even considers this idea, though. I'll say that.
No, this would be a wilt
terrible idea.
decision, and they would be insane to pass up on Aaron Rodgers if he was.
They would be
interested
insane
in
to
playing
bring
here
him
for
in.
cheap. Oh my God, it's just you would be a madman to say no to that. There's
So
just
would
too
you-
much.
Would you
Too
bring
much
in
gold.
Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard? And
No.
Corey
That would
Mel?
be the thing. That would be the thing. How many of these packages.
Devontae Adams, I bet, goes wherever Rodgers goes this year.
I don't want that. If
He'd be better than Jalen Naylor.
If you're bringing in Rodgers, you're only bringing in Rodgers and you're telling him enough of trying to get things your way because it clearly hasn't worked the past 4 years in wherever situation you've been in. If you're coming in to do it our way. We're not changing our offense. You're playing our offense. You're not bringing in any of your guys. We are continuing on the path that we set forward, and you have to deal with that. And enough with McAfee every week. You're done with that. I don't care about the publicity. No more McAfee for the rest of the year. Focus on the football.
Everybody should look at Aaron Rodgers the way the Rams look at Matthew Stafford. That's a guy you can trust in a big game, right?
Stafford
that's a guy who's not
younger.
Yeah, that's such
no,
a
he's not.
story.
He's got to be like 37, maybe 5 years younger. Maybe
You're
he is
right.
10. I don't know.
Not 10.
But here's the thing. I mean, you can trust a guy. How badly did everybody want Sam Darnold to throw something quick, a slant against the Lions or Rams in week 17 or week 18 and then in the playoffs, right? There was just none of that. The guy couldn't diagnose things fast enough and get the ball out. Was it play calling? Was it Darnold? I got to imagine it was mostly Darnold. Maybe some of it falls on O'Connell's shoulders for running guys too far downfield when the pass rush was so intense against the Lions and the Rams. But Rodgers is going to get that ball out. He's going to throw before guys get out of the routes more often than anybody in the league because he's just that damn good. And he still can diagnose, and he still has a big arm. He can't move for bleep, but he still has all of the intangibles to be a winning quarterback, kind of like Matthew Stafford. So look how good the Rams were this season. Then they ran into the juggernaut Eagles.
The inability to move.
Fair.
The inability to move. The inability to move scares me because look at the 4 quarterbacks in the title games this year. They all can move. You need to be able to move with the way defensive lines are eating offensive lines alive. And if you're bringing in a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers whose Achilles is a year and a half off of busting apart, I don't want any part of that unless you have the greatest offensive line of all time, which the Vikings do not have. You need a mobile quarterback. J.J. McCarthy offers you that more so than Aaron Rodgers does. I'm willing to take the growing pains more than I want to bring in the possibility that the ceiling gets a little bit more raised with 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers should everything work out and not burn down inside TCO Performance Center.
With Darisaw back, you do have a good
sensible take.
enough offensive line. I think you do have a good enough offensive line for a not so mobile quarterback with Darisaw back.
No, they're going to upgrade that. They're going to upgrade that offensive line significantly. They've got enough cap space where Dalton Reisner's gone. Blake Brandle's not going to be starting. Garrett Bradbury's question mark. I mean, they're
can you upgrade it though?
Bigger.
Can you upgrade it though to beat the Eagles' defensive line in the NFC Championship game if you get that far? Because I don't think there's any offensive line that can do that. Okay, so if it's a multi-year process, then what are you trying to do here with Rodgers?
You're not. You look at what the Eagles did. You guys look at what the Eagles did. They drafted Milton Williams in the 3rd round. They got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter in the 1st round. No, we can't watch Barbie on my phone right now. Sorry, honey. Maybe later. Thanks, babe. Listen, you can't do what the Eagles did. And we can't look at this as a comp for what the Eagles did this season to think that it's just going to happen for every other team who's trying to copycat. It's a process, right? But Rodgers on a 1-year deal for cheap makes a ton of sense. And it's not just about, is he going to lead us to the Super Bowl? Is he going to lead the Vikings to the Super Bowl? It's about every other little detail that goes into being a content-producing machine, being a team that has the spotlight on it at all times while staying competitive.
You know what's great for content? Super Bowl win. That's great for content.
If you're starting J.J. McCarthy next year or Aaron Rodgers next season, your Super Bowl odds probably don't change. They're probably the same, right? So who's going to bring more attention? Who's going to benefit the team for the long haul? It might be a year of studying with Aaron Rodgers as your mentor. So I'm just saying, forget the orbs and all the exciting stuff about conspiracy theories and, all that. I mean, my God, I would love to go alien chasing with Aaron Rodgers someday. It'd be phenomenal. It would be freaking phenomenal.
I was just going to say, Jonathan had a very sensible take on the matter, but this is not the place for sensible takes.
Apparently
this
not.
Is the place we're talking about chasing aliens. So, yeah. But I appreciate. I'm with Jonathan on it.
I tried. I don't offer opinions much on this program. I usually just ask the questions, but with Aaron Rodgers potentially, or being thrown out and speculated as a potential quarterback for the Vikings. Now, don't get me wrong, a couple years ago when the whole Packers situation was devolving, I would have loved the idea. But the way things have broken down with Rodgers the past, 2-3 years, I want him no part of this franchise, considering how the Vikings seem to be on an upward trajectory, Will.
Hey, Will, could you write a story and headline it? Crown College alum, wide receiver, thinks Aaron Rodgers is a waste of time. Former D3 wideout, Jonathan Harrison.
8th string wide receiver out of 7 thinks Aaron Rodgers is a bad idea.
Yeah. I don't take
Aaron Rodgers
seriously.
had 26 big-time throws, according to PFF last year, tied for 10th most in the league.
It's not bad. It's
He's
pretty
tied
good.
with Matthew Stafford, right behind
Look at
CJ
you.
Stroud.
His record was still
Look at-
5-12 though, so I'll
No,
take
Look
the
at the guy who
That's
I'll
the
take the
Jets.
14-3 with Sam
Nobody
Darnold.
can win with the Jets. Sam Darnold
Look
won't
at-
do very good with the Jets either. That franchise is just cursed. No matter who goes there,
Exactly.
they're going to be bad.
Exactly. I mean, they went through offensive play callers like the Gophers do. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is crazy what's going on with this team in New York, and nobody can succeed there. And Will, good job bringing up that big time throw stat. I can see yourself talking yourself into it right now. And
Don't do it, Will.
just
Don't do
think,
it.
this has only been happening for like an hour or two. In a day, a week from now, you are going to be 100% on board with the Aaron Rodgers Vikings quarterback 2025.
Yo, I think I got to send you the video of the JJ McCarthy highlights from the preseason game against the Raiders. We got to bring you back down a little bit.
Well, then I'll
Watch
send you
those.
Josh Dobbs Atlanta
Watch
Falcons
those.
highlights. Okay.
This is only an hour old, and I'm already more sick of it than the "let's trade Justin Jefferson" talk or the "who does Justin Jefferson want as his quarterback" talk that we had all of last year. I'm already more sick of this one than that
Yeah.
one, 'cause-
Well,
At least this
get
is
used
more
to
fun
it.
than talking about Kirk Cousins.
yeah, that's fair. There's
Oh
a
my
whole
God.
lot.
Well,
that's
he
more
could be
fun.
back too.
No.
No, why
Shut
do you gotta
up.
do this? Why do you gotta do this? All right, let's change the subject a little bit, Tony. Max Brosmer receiving an invite to the NFL Combine, showing out at the East-West Shrine game, if I'm remembering the games correctly. What are his chances of being drafted day 2, day 3 in the draft? What are his projections looking like for the 1-year Gophers quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty stunned if he went day 2, but day 3, I think it's a real possibility, and I think if he did just get the invite to the combine, and if he has a good week there, I think that's going to be where he can kind of separate himself between this cluster of potential day 3 quarterbacks. We all know it's a pretty weak quarterback draft class this year with Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward at the top, and then after that, it's really all up in the air. Jackson Darts looked pretty good at the Senior Bowl, I guess, but I think at the combine he can separate himself from that next tier, I guess, with like Will Howard, Kyle McCord, and based on everything that I am reading and hearing, I feel like it might be a coin flip, maybe a little bit higher than that Max Brosmer hears his name called, but I think overall it's kind of very indicative of where the Gophers program is. Producing draft picks doesn't win you games on Saturdays, but Minnesota hasn't had a quarterback drafted since 1984. So if he does hear his name called, I think that would be a pretty big win for PJ Fleck and the Gophers.
Who are
So
the Gophers?
Brock Purdy is what I'm hearing.
Hey, could be. I mean, I'm a big Brosmer guy. I think you throw him on any of the top teams in the Big Ten, I think they are just as good, if not better. I think he's better than Will Howard, personally. I think he's realistically could have a 10-year career as a backup, maybe longer than that. It's just his processing is at a very high level. He makes quick decisions. He started out the year pretty slow, but he made the jump from CAA with New Hampshire to the Big Ten with Minnesota. That's a pretty big different level of competition. And at the end of the year, I think we saw that he can perform at that level. And I think in the right system, he could have a pretty long career as a backup.
The limitations are just like physical, right? Like he's not very big. He doesn't have a big arm. He's not a great athlete. Is that
but I mean,
mainly it?
There were a couple runs he had
asking.
last year. I think he had 5 rushing touchdowns. A lot of those were sneaks, but he had a few scrambles. It's not like he's a statue back there. He's not Peyton Manning. Like he can roll out and scramble at least a little bit. where it's not like a glaring issue. So he's definitely one of the older quarterback prospects. I think he's 24, almost 25. Could be wrong there, but that's definitely adds to it. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
I know where he's going to end up. Future MVP of the AFL. He'll be playing on Sundays in March, baby.
The UFL?
Yeah, whatever that one is. Yeah.
You're not buying it. You're not buying my take that he can be a productive backup.
I mean, he could be a backup. He won't. I don't think.
Future St. Louis Battlehawk. Max
Yeah,
Brosmer.
he's who was that Ben something who played for the Cowboys for a while? He was the backup.
DiNucci.
Ben DiNucci. He's very Ben DiNucci like. Yes, maybe he has an opportunity for a role like that for a little while, but I think he's going to end up in a different league.
Fair enough.
He could do like the Tanner Morgan thing, bounce around a couple teams.
See, I think he's a lot better than Tanner Morgan, personally.
I agree. Tanner Morgan he had one good year, and he was just, oh man, him and what's his name, Mitch Leidner. Oh, Mitch
Leidner.
Leidner. Oh my God,
Mitch Leidner.
Yeah. You know, add him to the list of guys that maybe want to scratch my own eyes out over the course of Gophers history. Ooh.
Didn't like Todd
Max
McShay
Brosmer
once project him as a
Yes.
first round pick?
Yes, he did. He had off of like off of a year where he had like 16 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, but he had some.
Yeah, that was like
mobility.
his like way too early. Here's a look at our potential first round
Yeah.
picks. And then
There's a reason Todd McShay doesn't work at ESPN anymore.
Because the
That's
guy's
probably
like
it.
6'5" and large.
Yeah,
That
I
might
guess
be it right there.
my hot take is I bet Max Brosmer starts at least one NFL game in his career.
Ooh.
That's not a bad hot.
I think
pick.
I'd take the under, but I like it.
I mean, I could see him having a career like Nick Mullins.
I like it. All right.
All
All right, let's get out of here before any Wolves news breaks, because then we'll obviously come back for that, because we're all waiting upon whatever the judge, I guess, or the arbitrator decides between Glenn Taylor and the Mark Laurie, Alex Rodriguez situation. We're waiting for that. Will's crossing his fingers for good news
Yes,
for
anti-Glenn
Timberwolves.
Taylor news.
I think we're all doing that. So we'll obviously probably come back when that news breaks later today. But good stuff from you guys. Do hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It does help us get found, and it does notify you every time we post a new video here on the channel. We'll talk to you then.